Okay. Everybody's muted for now. Oh, somebody else coming in. So, shall we start again? Yeah. Okay, and actually, I'm just going to clap. And the reason I'm going to clap is so we can sync the translation with the video once I get both recordings, okay? There we go. Welcome to this first session in the course Coming to Our Senses, which is an 8-week mindfulness course based on the 3 days that you've already experienced. And each week we'll home in on one of the activities we did that weekend and go a bit further into it as a metaphor to explore as a practice. And this first session is called Dropping the Balloon, which was the first exercise, if you remember. Now I'm going to share the screen with a presentation, and then we're going to go into a practice. In future weeks, we'll start with the practice, and then we'll have a short presentation. During the course, there's also a lot of opportunity for feedback. So it's not just me talking, and breakout rooms so you can chat amongst each other. So here we go.
The request, please, is to talk a little bit slower so Julia has time to translate or make some breaks.
Okay.
Just small breaks. Thank you.
So you will recognize this picture of a balloon and a bottle and a mirror and this Mobius strip from the workshop. And as I said in this first session, we'll be exploring what it means to drop the balloon. A little more about the course. It's an 8-week course, a 90-minute weekly online session. And the commitment is a 20 minutes per day home practice, which are guided meditations. And there are also what I'm calling weekly hacks, which are small interventions you can make during your day to bring mindfulness not just into a small part of the day, but throughout the whole day. And this training does not qualify you to deliver this training. It's not training the trainer. It's just for you. The practice that will enable you to deliver a course like this will come later in the year once you've established a practice and you want to go forward. But it's important that you have your own practice before you start teaching. Just as you wouldn't teach somebody to swim if you couldn't swim yourself. It's the same with mindfulness. Okay, moving on to the next slide. You remember this character that I mentioned? This is the bacteria that forms ice crystals in clouds and on leaves, and it's called the Pseudomonas syringae. And this is pretty much what the self looks like as well. Not really, but we are similar to this bacteria in the sense that we assemble clouds, if you like. Everything that appears to us is something that the self assembles. And as I mentioned before, in 1987, the very first genetically modified bacteria released into the environment was a modification of this bacteria so that it didn't form ice crystals out of water droplets. And then they found out that this is actually how raindrops are formed in the clouds. And without this property, then we wouldn't have any rain. So they stopped releasing that. But it was the very first attempt at genetic engineering, and it almost destroyed life on Earth. So how are we like this bacteria that creates these beautiful things that fall as rain or snow from clouds? So we talked about these three triangles, the three qualities of the universe: meaning, matter, and energy. And we pull these different aspects together to create the sensation of there being a body, a voice, and a mind. And these three combine in many different ways to really convince ourselves that we exist. And in human development, this is the human condition. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, just as the bacteria's natural inclination is to create ice. We are, as children, we become aware that we're a body. Then using the voice and our hands to use tools, we can project that self out into the world and have an effect and see the effect. And then as we get older, around 7, we start to experiment with different roles in society, different personalities that we might become. And actors especially become experts in playing different roles. I'm not going to go into this a lot, but the exercises we did were relating to the mind in the body in movement, and the movement in mind. And these have the equivalent in the theater of this world. The mind in the body is the stage. And that's very much in this prefrontal cortex, the front of the head. That's the inner stage, the mind in the body. That's the center of action, if you like. And
Sorry, Ewan. Sorry to interrupt. We lost the translation here, and I need to check if something happened because I do not hear anything in the translation room. So is Eugene or Yulia? I don't hear you anymore, Yulia. I don't see you in the group anyway. Can you, Eugene, can you take over? Or can you speak in the room? Okay. Yeah, I hear you in the room. So please translate what I talked with Mary also. She's on the road. She cannot do it. I don't see Yulia anymore. I think she disappeared. But try. Can you take it from the triangles? Sorry, Yun, but
okay.
people are
Do I need to
missing
go back?
information. Yeah. Take it from the triangle.
Okay.
Yeah.
These
This.
three triangles
Mm-hmm.
are the quality of all that we experience. This is from quantum physics. And then those create in the human the experience of a mind, a body, and a voice. And this is just like the bacteria. It's our function. It's what we do. It's the human condition. And as we grow, our development involves a stage of embodiment when, as a baby, we start to understand where I begin and where the rest of the world begins, where I end and the rest of the world begins. And then I start to hear my voice and use it. And then I start to pick things up with my hands and use them. And I receive an effect from using these things. And that's projection. And then I start to change my voice or change how I present myself, pretending to be a doctor or a nurse or a teacher. And I developed this capacity to have a role in society. And as I said, actors make a profession out of it, playing different roles. And these were explored in the workshop through these 3 different activities, where we explore the mind in the body in movement, movement in mind. And in the theater of our experience, these can be compared to the mind and the body is the stage where things seem to happen. We believe that there's a mind in this body where things come together. The body in movement, when we move, we feel ourselves as a character. And movement in mind is the whole narrative structure that we put on ourselves, the past, the present, the future, which we might call the play. You might say these are an expression of the invention of the time, space, and the I. And in religious terms, maybe God is light. But this is all blah, blah, blah. This has nothing to do with the course. It's just a theory. So that's not really useful to us. What it is, and what I call, it's throwing the dog a de Bono. So Edward de Bono was a famous philosopher of thought. You might have heard of the I think it's the 6 hats. Developed lots of and critical thinking, different ways of thinking. This mindfulness is not a different way of thinking. Okay, the intellect is like a hungry dog, and we're throwing it a bone to chew on with these theories. But what we're doing in this course has nothing to do with any of that. It might be interesting, but what we're doing is looking at the human experience, our common experience. And those are based on these different experiences that we can definitely say are true because we're experiencing them right now. And these are, first of all, body sensations. There's definitely body sensations happening, right? I can feel my bum on the seat, my feet on the floor. I can feel a little bit hungry or a little bit tired. Maybe something is itching or a little bit painful. Then there's actions or impulses. I'm talking right now. I have the impulse to continue talking rather than stopping. So impulses are actions that are not completed, but are felt. Then we have thoughts, mental activity, and then we have emotions or feelings. So whatever's happening at any given point will be one of these things, or several. In fact, what we're going to explore is how our experience is very much bouncing between all of these, and they all interrelate. We'll have a thought that creates a body sensation. That body sensation might be interpreted as an emotion, and that emotion might lead to an impulse to either embrace that emotion or to run away from it. So let me just show you as an example how it works. And in this, this is a feedback bit, so you can unmute yourself when you like to speak. Here's a picture. What's the picture? What does the picture show? What do you think it is? Anybody can answer.
There is a beach and sea and the sky.
It's a beach and a sea and the sky. And what time of day do you think it is?
It might be at night or it might be very cloudy.
And So that's what you think, and how do you feel about it? Does it evoke an emotion? Or a feeling?
Calm, maybe. Like calm.
Calm? Anything else? What's that?
Печаль, грусть.
Sadness.
Okay, I heard calm. I didn't hear the other thing.
She said sadness.
Sadness. Okay. And does it create a physical sensation? Looking at this picture. Sensation in the body.
It makes me sigh.
Sigh. That's a good one.
I want to sleep.
You want to sleep? You can hear the waves. Can you hear the waves? Can you really immerse yourself in this place?
Вы можете представить себя на этом месте?
Yes, of course. I can.
You can. You can imagine diving into the sea and having a swim.
Вы
No,
представляете
because I can't.
море?
And what about action impulses? What are the impulses that you feel around this?
Какие импульсы вы ощущаете, смотря на картинку?
I feel sand, like touching the sand.
Touching the sand. Okay. So what if I were to tell you that this is not a picture of a beach? It's the bottom of a rusty car door.
I wanted to say that is a piece of wood that is broken in the middle because the light comes from where the picture is taken. So
Yeah, this is actually a rusty car door. How do your feelings change?
Sorry, but I didn't understand the meaning, the word rusty. Can you
Broken, you know, when metal,
portieră ruginită de mașină.
ce e aia?
Pragurile ruginite de la o mașină.
Ah, okay. Thank you. Now I got it.
you
Thank you.
get it. It's a rusty car door.
Yeah.
How do your feelings change now? Can you see it as a rusty car door? Are you really attached to it being a beach?
Или вы все еще представляете, что это пляж?
Я представляю, что все это еще пляж.
Я представляю пляж, я не вижу машину.
Could I have a
They-
translation?
Yeah. They say like it's still beach for them.
Right. You don't want to see the rusty car door, although that's actually what it is. And what's interesting about the brain, it can't see both at the same time. You have to choose to see it as one or the other. You can go back and forth, but you can only see it as one thing and then shift to the other one if you want. So by this, you can see that the brain is dualistic. The thought is dualistic. It's either this or that. There isn't much of a middle ground in the way thought works. It's polarized. And you'll notice how we use emotion a lot to give us meaning about things. The emotion of this being a beach are very different to the emotion of it being a rusty car door. We might have a feeling of wanting to approach something. Or actually, we might want to avert our attention from it. So we might want to embrace things that we think are pleasant, or be averse to things that are unpleasant. Like, oh, I don't want to look at the rusty car door because it means I'd have to fix it if it was mine, or it just shows something that needs fixing. And so we end up in life often bouncing between these different things, the thought, the physical sensation, the action, the impulse, and emotions. So I'd be curious to see how many of you feel like this most of the day. Yeah. People are putting the thumbs up. You can put your hand up as well if you think, yeah, that's me, bouncing between one thing or the other.
This
Now,
was my day today.
Yeah. So this is a metaphor for what's happening in the mind or in the human experience. So why is it important to practice mindfulness? Why would we want to practice mindfulness? And here's a quote. If you're not at the table, you are on the menu. And what I mean by that is, if you are not like playing the pinball machine, you are the ball. You are the victim. You're at the mercy of what seems like a chaotic experience of life. And I'm not saying outside elements create chaos, but with mindfulness, we're able to take a step back and notice this movement between these different sensations. So we're not on the menu, we're at the table. So let's try this now with this activity called dropping the balloon. So if you remember dropping the balloon, the exercise, and what we're going to do, and I'll come out of sharing the screen for a bit, and we'll come back to that. So if you remember, and you don't have to enact it, you haven't got any balloons around, but you can remember. And you can remember what it's like simply to close your eyes. Remember this activity of the mind, keeping the balloon up. And really take a moment just to close your eyes and notice all the balloons in the air. And right now, because there's probably not so much happening around you, maybe there is, but what's happening is going to be in the inner world, in your inner experience. There's going to be physical sensations. There's going to be feelings, emotions. There's going to be impulses, usually leading to actions, but here in this practice, we don't act on those impulses. We simply notice them. And then there are thoughts. So just noticing what any of the balloons are for you right now, and seeing as best you can if you can just relax the hand, relax the feeling that there's anything you need to do about any of them. There's no need to stop them. Some of them call to your attention. But you don't need to keep them up. So relaxing the activity in the mind which seeks to claim these things, claim them as your own, and in claiming them, believe that there's something you should do about them. Of course, like in the metaphor, the hand becomes itchy and wants to reach out and do something to keep them up. It's the habit of a lifetime. But during this course, we're going to use other practices to learn how to drop that balloon. And in essence, that is what mindfulness is. It's switching from the doing mode to the simply being mode. And there is literally nothing to do to just be. You simply have to relax, surrender the idea that you have to do something. Relax the hand and simply be. So when you notice something, that's not doing something, you're simply noticing. Your attention has been taken by something, but it's what you do next. It's what decides whether it's mindfulness or not. You notice something, and you let it go. You don't keep it up. You simply watch it fall away. And when you can do that, you start to see where these balloons appear from. But for now, in this exercise, we practice dropping the balloon. And of course, for most of us, we're practicing juggling 100 balloons at the same time. And we've been taught that shows that we're clever or we're good at things or we're efficient. To the point that maybe we feel a little bit guilty to simply stop. To simply go on strike. And to say, no, I am not going to keep the balloon up. You might even feel insecure because without these balloons to tell me who I am and what I'm for, who will I be? Well, you can spend your whole life and never realize who you really are. This is how we find out how to be. So taking a few deeper breaths. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. And what I'm going to do is try and create some breakout rooms. I think I can't do breakout rooms while we're recording. Maybe we'll just stop the recording. Is that all right? And then we'll have breakout rooms, and I'll try and put you in rooms with people who speak the same language. And then I'll record when we come back. How was it for you? So just unmute yourself and say a little. It'd be nice to hear from everybody if possible. Just a few words to know that you're there.
For me, the fact that I could picture a situation, that I could have this guided image with the balloon helped me to get into that state of calmness. If I'm like trying to not to think, it's harder for me to calm the mind. But if I have an image, this image with the balloons, it was easier for me to drop the balloon.
Okay, thank you, Vrindavana. Would you like to pass it on to somebody else?
I will pass the balloon to Eugene Brook, but I think he translates.
Okay.
I can do this. Actually, there is not much I can add to what Vrindavana just said. But for me, it's also way much easier to make this picture of the dropping balloons, to not to stop think about something particular. Just have the picture as a support to do this.
Mm-hmm. And who do you hand it on to, Eugene?
I would like to hand to Tetiana Paukova. Let me translate first.
Я сказал тоже.
Я думала про шари. Ні, насправді це була шутка. Насправді ні про що взагалі не хотілося думати. Мені здається, на якийсь період часу я відчула, що дійсно як повітряна кулька і просто легкість і в тілі, і в думках. Ось так.
Маша, Мария, можешь помочь мне перевести для Ивана? Чтобы у нас не было этого дубляжа перевода, как сейчас.
Сейчас, секунду, можешь повторить, пожалуйста? Связь очень плохая была.
Я повинна повторити, так?
Нет, я не услышала, что Женя сказала. Вас я услышала.
Да, я хотел предложить, что я буду переводить Ивана для аудитории в Телеграме, а ты переводи тогда из Телеграма сюда в Zoom, в обратную сторону.
Окей, да, хорошо. Хорошо.
Да, договорились.
Да, Таня, можешь повторить, пожалуйста, кусками, с паузами?
Так. Я сказала про те, що відчувала легкість і взагалі ні про що не хотілося думати, а просто спостерігала за кульками. Тобто легкість відчувалася і в думках, і в тілі.
So she feels like light feelings, and she was just observe the balloons, and that's it. And she doesn't want to think about something. She just was observing the balloons.
Thank you. So Tatiana, who's next?
Татьяна, вы должны дальше передать шарик кому-то, кто следующий будет говорить.
Я передаю Дар'ї Христенко.
Вначале я чувствовала, я даже рукой подталкивала шарики, я их поддерживала, их не полет, пока вы не сказали отпустить, перестать их.
Что, паузу? Можно паузу? In the beginning, she was trying to handle these balloons until that moment that you say to stop to it, to relax the hand.
Затем мне приятно было наблюдать за ними, и возник вопрос, откуда они летят. Ощущение было спокойствия и наслаждения.
It was interesting to observe them, and she has a question from which place it starts to fly, and she was feeling calm.
Мне это нравилось наблюдать, и даже в какой-то момент, не знаю, это, наверное, мой мозг, я улетала в свой город, в парк, в те места, в какое-то место, которое мне дорого, где-то на природе в своем городе, и возвращалась обратно к шарикам.
And
Всё.
sometimes she was flying to her native city, to some places, and after that she was coming back to balloons.
Thank you.
And who's next? Who would you like to nominate to go next?
Sorry. Татьяна, если она слышит, в Телеграме, да?
Татьяна с нами только в Телеграм.
Она не, да, она только в Телеграме.
Она к Zoom не подключена.
Ага. Алин, значит, Алин. Алин, sorry.
For me, it was a well-deserved rest after the day. The moment we started doing the meditation, everything relaxed, and it was like I dropped the weight of the day. And honestly, I wanted more. So at the beginning, it was the moment I was letting myself drop the balloon. Everything was quiet, no thoughts whatsoever. And then the day caught up and balloons started popping. I still have this to do, I still have this to do, I still have this to do. But then I had to like, okay, get away. It's my break. I want my break. And at the end, my mind was more clear and I got some energy back. It's like closing windows on the screen of the computer. Tuk, 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 tuk. And now the computer works better.
Thank you. And who'd like to go next? Who do you want to nominate?
Zhenya. I nominate Zhenya. Zhenya, by the way, she helped us in the labyrinth.
Okay, in the sensory journey.
Yeah, in the sensory journey. She helped us a lot and she did really good.
Женя в этот раз помогала нам с сенсорным путешествием.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Я не смогла представить воздушные шарики, потому что все это время я представляла только лишь воздушные шары, как будто где-то в КПД.
She didn't manage it at all because she was imagining the balloons. Ты представляла воздушные шары?
Да. Каждый раз, когда я пыталась представить надувные шарики, мои мысли уходили в какие-то бытовые вещи.
So each time when she tried to imagine the balloons, her thoughts was going to daily things, daily routines.
Но когда я возвращалась опять к воздушным шарам, мне становилось спокойнее. Мне не хотелось ни подталкивать, ни трогать, ни толкать, ничего с ними.
But then she goes back to balloons. She feels calm and she didn't want to touch something, to touch them, to get them up or to do something with them.
Thank you.
Передаю Наталье.
Hello, everybody.
Hi,
So yeah, I was so hungry. That's that's why when I just look at the balloons, I imagine just food. Sorry.
That's great. Yeah. So there was the impulse to eat. And
Yeah.
you couldn't act on it. You imagined food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But thank you.
Okay.
It was
Thank you, Natalie.
relatable. Thank you.
Who would you like to pass it on to?
Julia. To Julia. Julia, we have got Julia? No. Verdi. Where is she? No,
No, she's not here.
it's not here. Okay, then.
Helena.
Yeah, let it be Helena. Mm-hmm.
During this, I don't know, conversation, I imagined the Christmas bubbles, not air balloons, like. And I was playing with them, touching them, but I don't want to drop them. So it's my vision.
Елена, сможете тоже перевести?
Да, я уявляла просто кульки, прикраси, які на ялинку чіпляються. Я з ними гралася, просто їх торкалася, але не хотіла їх розбивати.
So you have Matuka or Katerina or Anna?
Oh, to Anna. Anya, where are you?
Eating.
I want to turn on her microphone.
Do you think that's what it is? I'll ask her to unmute, see if she does it. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, but I would like to tell you to skip it because it's not convenient for me.
Sounds noisy there.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. You can always put it in chat if you don't want to speak, by the way. So let's say Matuka. And then we'll finish with
I couldn't drop the balloon. I'm still holding it. So I will try after this balloon goes to sleep. I will do the meditation.
Okay.
And I will give you a feedback afterwards.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Katerina?
Да, я здесь, я могу, с удовольствием дам отзыв. Вот, я абсолютно согласна с Алленом, то, что когда я отпустила шары, которые накопились сегодня за день,
I'm totally agree with Aline, and then I dropped the balloons that comes from all of the day.
И я почувствовала действительно все закрытые вкладки на компьютере.
I feel like I close the websites on my computer.
Вот, поэтому спасибо за это упражнение. Я уверена, я знаю, что об этом нужно помнить часто в течение дня и это делать.
So thank you for this exercise. I will remember about it and I will try to use it until in a day.
Вот, спасибо.
Thank you.
Okay. I think that's everybody, is it? Okay, remember that you can write in the chat as well if you don't want to speak. So, what sorry, I don't know how to say her name. Evenia? Evengia. So, I don't know. So as well. Your
You
wife
can just say Eugenie and that's it.
Eugenie was saying, what she was explaining is the default mode network. It's absolutely normal. It's what almost everybody's mind is doing when there's nothing to do. it's multitasking. Now, as we go through this course, I mentioned this before, there are 5 major obstacles to mindfulness. First is a resistance to doing it, because you just are too busy, or you just don't have time to stop, or you don't want to stop. You don't want to play the game, or the mind can conjure all kinds of reasons not to do it, all kinds of excuses. And that's what we call resistance. When we sit down, we really don't want to sit down, even when we feel angry that we're forced to sit down. And I'm not talking so much about in the session, I'm talking about your practice during the week. You might also feel this restlessness. So all these balloons appear, and they're very important. You have to do them. There's a whole list of things you need to do. And again, this is another way of maintaining the default network. Default network mode, DNM. Or maybe we'll just go into a kind of numbness of not feeling anything. Or often as well, you might feel a torpor, which means sleepiness. So you just start nodding off, because when we close our eyes, it's usually it's a prompt, it's a cue for us to go, oh, time to sleep. And then there's daydreaming. There's going off and thinking about nice things. Positive thinking is a kind of daydreaming. And all of these correspond to stress responses. Resistance is fight. Restlessness is flight. Numbness is freeze. Torpor is faint. Daydreaming is fawn. Fawning. That might be difficult to translate, but it's being very nice and rose-colored glasses, and everything is wonderful, and I'm just going to sit here and think positive thoughts, and I'm going to feel great. That's not mindfulness. So why do we have this stress response to simply being with ourselves? So that's often why we say mindfulness is actually coming home, making friends with ourselves, so that we don't have these stress responses when we simply arrive with ourselves. And this is what drives this bouncing around like a pinball machine, because we're actually frightened to be still and be with ourselves. And at the core of that really is because we don't exist. And we struggle constantly to function by pulling all these different aspects we looked at, like that little bacteria, to create this reason to exist, or to gather evidence that we exist in the first place. And this is the human condition. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's totally normal. And what's the solution? The solution is to use this, to use the fact that we are simply a function of environment and expectation. Right, exactly like this bacteria. That's all we are, is a function of the environment and expectation. Now you see this picture here. This is a good example to show you how you are a function of environment and expectation. So if you look at the color of the top square and the bottom square, which would you say is the lighter square? The bottom, top or the bottom?
Bottom for me.
Is lighter. Everybody agree with that? Okay. So the color of the top square and the bottom square are exactly the same. You can actually test this by covering with your finger, covering the bit where they join, and then you can see they're the same color. simply cover the join, and you can see that they're both exactly the same color. So what is happening? So our brain is designed to work in an environment where light usually comes from one direction, the sun. And in a landscape like this, we assume that the bottom square, because of the angle that makes it look three-dimensional, is in the shade, which means the color should be lighter. So we have an environment and an expectation, and that's what our brain sees, although they are exactly the same color. Does everybody see that? Just tell me if you haven't seen it yet. So how can we use the environment and expectation to really make this course work for us, to establish a practice so we're not on the menu, we're at the table? And what that means for the quality of your life can't be measured. You won't be eaten by worries and anxiety. You'll be able to sit back and see the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in front of you. Rather than being thrown about by it. So, with your environment, to improve your chances of developing this practice of mindfulness, you need a place to practice. A place where you can go every day, and you won't be disturbed, to establish practice. You need people to support you. Now, these people you live with, make it clear to them that you're going to take 20 minutes of your day to do this every day. And you have to make the time. You're not going to be able to fit it in. You have to make the time. Now, this might mean getting up earlier than you usually do, just 20 minutes earlier to do the practice. And I assure you, in time, you'll gain that time back. You'll gain it in energy. And also, because you won't be in so much chaos, you'll be able to do more in the day. So creating an environment where you have a place to practice, people to support you. And that also means your colleagues, the people on this course, can help you to make it a community of practice and to make the time in the day. Now, what's the expectation that is going to help you? So the first thing is, it might take a bit of time for you to see a change. So you have to delay your gratification, because sometimes the experience of sitting for 20 minutes and doing the practice will be unpleasant. But this is the thing. This isn't like what we usually do, where we just go away from something unpleasant. It's about doing it, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. You might sit for 20 minutes and you go, oh my God, so many balloons. And sometimes it'll be nice, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's pleasant or unpleasant. It's just the doing of it. And you can't turn it into a habit overnight. It has to be a ritual before it's a habit. You have to do it consciously, with intention, not just, oh yeah, I'll just try and do this. You really have to commit to it. And you can't wait for motivation. Okay, I'll just wait here till I feel like it. It will not happen, because the self, this is the last thing the self wants, is to actually switch out of default mode, default network mode, into experiencing mode. Initially, there's an initial resistance for everybody, or most people. So really recognize that it might take time for you to see a change. Notice that, see that you can do it, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, doesn't matter, just doing it. so that it becomes a ritual, something that you do with intention before it's a habit. And you just do it before you feel the motivation to do it. Now, the home practice for this week is a grounding exercise, which I've recorded for you. It's on SoundCloud or on Insight Timer or on YouTube, and I'll put the links into Telegram. And dropping the balloon twice a day. Now, you don't need to take as long as we took to do it. Just whenever there's a moment of during the day, and this is separate to that 20-minute practice, anytime during the day where you can just simply drop the balloon, and you don't even have to close your eyes. It's simply a matter of stepping back, noticing what thoughts, what body sensations, what impulses are there, what emotions, and don't feel the need to do anything about it. And see if you can do it both when you're in a moment of stillness and quiet, but also see if you can do it when it's busy. What's it like to sit there and just see everything that's happening around you? A noisy classroom, or just cars going by, just as balloons, everything. The whole experience is just balloons, seeing if you can just drop the feeling that you need to do anything about it. Now, of course, sometimes the balloons can form into this angry dog. And if that's the case for you, it's really about learning how to do it a little bit. And if it gets angry, just stop, return your breath, return your focus to the breath, which is the grounding exercise, which you will learn. And then dropping the balloon. So that's why the grounding exercise is here, because sometimes the balloon form an angry dog that's wants to come and bite you. Although a balloon dog cannot bite you. It just feels like it can. So Insight Timer is an app, and all the meditations will be on Insight Timer during the course. So I invite you to download that, and hopefully maybe somebody can translate it, and I'll upload those as well. And I'll put those links into Telegram. So we're going to do the grounding exercise now, unless anybody has any questions about any of that. And you can put it in chat if you want. Okay. So let's do this practice, which is recorded and which you can use, and it's 20 minutes long. But I'm not going to do a 20-minute version. I'm just going to do a 10-minute version so that we can finish with anything you want to ask or say. So in this, again, we close our eyes and we're going to sit. If you're sitting on a chair, sit upright with your back away from the back of the chair. In this position is optimum. If you sit cross-legged, and if you can sit cross-legged, full lotus, that's okay. Or if you are sitting on a cushion, the important thing is that you have these 3 points of contact with the ground and with the seat. So if you're sitting in lotus, or kneeling is fine, but sitting in lotus, you'd need your knees on the floor as well as your bum to create that solid base. In the chair, it's your 2 feet on the floor, your bum on the chair, the legs forming a 90-degree angle. And what I want you to do is to shift your attention down to your pelvis. And I'd like you to just move your pelvis back and forth, rotating at the hips. So the bottom of the spine is kind of moving. And what I invite you to find is a kind of center point where you feel balanced. And sometimes you find it because it's like a sweet spot where you feel taller. You're not pulling yourself up. You're simply pushing the pelvis forward and back very gently until you find this center point. And when you find it, just stay there. You might suddenly feel a little more awake as well, like a little tingle. And what that is the polyvagal nerve, which is it's like the broadband between your brain and your body and your nervous system. So when that is straighter, more information can pass down it. And that's why we suddenly feel a little more awake when we find that sweet spot. During this practice, whenever you feel sleepy or distracted, you can just move that pelvis again to find that sweet spot. The hands are on the knees or in your lap. And your chin is slightly tucked in, so it's kind of parallel with the ground. So once you find that spot, coming into stillness in the body. So I would like you to imagine that there's a triangle formed between your two hips and your belly button. Imagine there's a triangle formed by the belly button and the two hips. Lots of triangles today. This is one triangle. And in that triangle is, you guessed it, a balloon. And every time you breathe in, that balloon inflates. When you breathe out, it gets smaller. Triangle formed between the hips and the belly button. Inside the triangle is a balloon that inflates, deflates. And you breathe in. It's just using your imagination to see it there. If the mind wanders away, which it tends to do, because that default mode network is almost automatic, we bring it back to this balloon in the triangle made between our belly button and our hips. Seeing if you could follow the breath all the way in and all the way out. If that's working for you, you can continue with that. Now, if you're finding your mind particularly resistant or restless, or sleepy or numb, or you're off daydreaming, then you can change the breathing. Whatever our situation, when we change our breath, we change our physiology. When we change our physiology, we change our mind. But if you're fine and you're able to do this, just continue visualizing this balloon in the triangle made between your belly button and the peak and your hips. So breathing into the count of 4, holding it for 8, breathing out to the count of 6, then breathing into the count of 4, holding it to the count of 8, breathing out to the count of 6. Again, if you found just focusing on there enough, stay with that. If you find your mind constantly wanting to distract itself, here's something you can give it this to do. Breathing into the count of 4, balloon filling up, holding it for 8, breathing out to the count of 6. And when you do those timings, after a while, if you feel a little calmer, you can return just to focusing on the breath. The balloon in the triangle. Now imagining that the balloon is actually the whole body. The whole body is breathing. When you're ready, stretching if you like. Or wiggling toes and fingers. Opening your eyes. So how was that practice for you? Anybody can respond.
Can I try first?
Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, so for me it was very difficult, but it's make me more calm because meditation it's very difficult for me because I cannot even just close my eyes and to be focused on the breath. So yeah, the counting helps me to connect it with my body, and so yeah, it was difficult for me, and I think I didn't manage it, but I do my best.
Great, thank you.
I wanted to thank you for sharing this practice. I didn't consider that there is a possibility not to do just one exercise, but also to add another element more complicated if the first one doesn't help to get out of all those balloons. Then just add counting. But for sure, I would like to try it as 20 minutes and no translating. I will now translate. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Eugene.
In the end, for me, the analogy for the body with the balloon, it was such a nice sensation. I felt that my body expands, and inside my body there's a lot of empty space. It was a very nice sensation that I could not put into words. Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Я представила шарик, представила треугольник.
I was imagining the balloon and the triangle.
Но я думала, какой это шар, какого он цвета.
But I was thinking about this balloon, how it's look like or which color it's have.
В конце у меня получилось расслабиться, и я даже почувствовала легкое головокружение.
In the end, I can relax, and I even feel like the light, like a drunk head, you know.
Но иногда я все равно возвращалась в бытовые дела.
But in this process, I still get back to my daily routines.
Thank you, Eugenia. Yeah, so there's going to be lots of different techniques for you to try in this course, and some will work for you in particular, and some
Будут ли еще и другие техники? Мікрофон.
У мене, мабуть. Можна говорити чи ще ні? Так? Так, я хотіла сказати, що я яскраво уявила собі рожеву повітряну кульку в золотому трикутнику, і я бачила, як вона здувалася і надувалася, і це було схоже на серце, як воно пульсує, і разом з цією кулькою я відчувала, як я як я заспокоююсь і відпускаю все, і тобто я спостерігала тільки за цією кулькою.
So I was imagine, можно паузу, пожалуйста? I was imagine like the rose balloon in the gold triangle, and it was look like a heart, and I saw how it's beating like a heart. Оно сжималось, было похоже на сердце.
Так.
Дальше.
І коли Іван запропонував рахувати, мені це було важче. Я тоді концентрувалась на рахунку і не так яскраво уявляла собі оцю кульку. І коли сказав Іван, що можете продовжувати без рахунку, то мені було таке полегшення, і я знову побачила цю кульку всередині себе, і були такі приємні відчуття.
And then you proposed to count. It was much difficult for me because I lose that balloon. And then you say like you can count, or if you don't want, you can not count. And it was much easier to not to count because my balloons come back to me.
Дякую. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't want to use any more of your time. It's 6:30 for you. No, 6:30 for me. 6:30 something for you. I don't know. 8:30 for you. Okay, it's really nice to see all of you. I'm looking forward to hearing more about the sensory journeys, but maybe next week we'll do that. When we go journeying to now, the journey to now is next session. Have a great week.
Thank you, Ewan.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Ewan.
Thanks.
Okay. And any feedback is great.
Thank you.
Good or bad, either way.
We can continue also the experience of the practices, our daily practices. We can continue on the group. So if anyone wants to share how the experience of that day, the 20 minutes grounding exercise of dropping the balloon, if you have any of this experience, you can share it on the group. It would be great also for others to see that, because we get inspiration, and it will give us motivation to practice daily. Because now after this meditation, now I have energy to finish my work, which is cool. It's like I decompressed, and I'm okay. So in 1 hour I'm gonna finish everything.
Yoo-hoo!
Have a great time on Saturday and the rest of the week, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Ewan. It was great.
Thank you so much.